Captain Jake Morgan stood on the bridge of his warship, the USS Defiance. His eyes were fixed on the screens in front of him. Red dots filled the display. Each dot was an enemy ship. There were too many of them. Way too many. The war had been going badly for humans. The Kalthari had attacked 3 years ago. They were aliens, but not the friendly kind from movies. These aliens were like giant bugs with armor covering their bodies. They had sharp claws and even sharper minds. Worst of all, they shared one big brain. They called it the hive mind. It made them perfect killers. 27 human colonies were gone. Just gone, billions of people had died. Now the Kalthari surrounded the last big human base in this part of space. Everyone knew this might be the end. Jake rubbed his tired eyes. He had not slept well in weeks. Nobody had. The bridge crew worked quietly around him. They were good people. Brave people. They deserved better than this war. Commander Lisa Hayes walked up to him. Her face was pale. That was never a good sign. Lisa was the toughest person Jake knew. If she looked worried, things were very bad. "Captain, we have a problem," Lisa said quietly. She handed him a datapad. "We picked up a distress call. It is from the research station on Kepler 442b. The Kalthari are attacking it right now. The station will fall in 40 minutes, maybe less." Jake felt his stomach drop. Kepler 442b was a science station. Just scientists studying alien plants and animals. No weapons. No soldiers. Just people trying to learn about the universe. "How many people are on that station?" Jake asked. His voice was steady, but his hands gripped the datapad tight. 147 people, sir. That includes 32 children. Some of the scientists brought their families there. They thought it was safe, far from the war. Lisa looked down. They were wrong, 32 children. Jake thought of his own daughter back on Earth. Emma was 7 years old. She had brown hair and a big smile. She loved to draw pictures of spaceships. He had not seen her in 8 months. Every day he fought this war, he told himself it was for her. For all the kids like her. Before Jake could say anything, the main screen lit up. Admiral Gregory Cole appeared. He was an old man with gray hair and cold eyes. He had been fighting wars since before Jake was born. "Morgan, I know you got that distress call," Cole said. His voice was hard. "Ignore it. I need the Defiance at the meeting point in 30 minutes. We are starting Operation Crimson Dawn. This is our only chance to win this war. We are going to punch through the enemy lines and hit their supply ships. Without supplies, the Kalthari will have to retreat." Jake knew about Operation Crimson Dawn. It was a desperate plan, a dangerous plan, but it might work. The Defiance was the key. His ship had new weapons, powerful quantum torpedoes that could destroy Kalthari ships in one hit. Without the Defiance, the operation would fail. Without the operation, humanity would lose the war. The bridge went silent. Everyone knew what was happening. Everyone understood the choice. "Admiral, those are civilians," Jake said. "Those are families, children." "I know what they are, Captain," Cole replied. "I also know that if we miss this window, billions more will die. Sometimes we have to make hard choices. Sometimes we have to sacrifice the few to save the many. That station is already lost. Do not throw away our last chance to win this war." "That is an order." The screen went dark. Admiral Cole was done talking. Jake stood there staring at nothing. The research station was in the opposite direction from the meeting point. He could not do both. He had to choose. Save 147 people, including 32 kids, or save billions by helping to win the war. Lieutenant Paul Grant stood at the weapons station. He was young, only 23. Good kid, smart. He looked at Jake, waiting for orders. Everyone was waiting. Jake closed his eyes. He saw Emma's face. He imagined 32 kids just like her, scared, crying, calling for their parents while monsters broke down the walls. He imagined what Emma would think if she knew her daddy left kids to die because it was not strategic. Because the math said their lives did not matter enough. He opened his eyes. His decision was made. "Set course for Kepler 442b, Jake said. His voice was quiet but firm. "Maximum speed. We are getting those people out." "Sir, the Admiral's orders," Lisa said. She was not arguing. She just wanted to make sure he understood what he was doing. "I heard the Admiral," Jake said. "I am choosing to disobey. Those are people. Those are children. We do not abandon them. Not while I am breathing. Now move this ship." The crew jumped into action. The Defiance turned away from the meeting point. The engines roared to life. The ship shot forward, racing toward the research station. Racing toward 32 kids who needed help. Jake knew what this meant. He was disobeying direct orders in wartime. That was treason. He would probably be arrested when he got back. Maybe executed. The operation would fail without him. Good soldiers would die. Maybe humanity would lose the war. But he could live with that. What he could not live with was the sound of children screaming while he flew away to fight a battle. Lisa stood beside him. She put a hand on his shoulder. "For what it is worth, sir, I think you are doing the right thing." "Tell me that when they put me against the wall," Jake said with a sad smile. Then he looked at the screen showing their course. "How long until we reach the station?" 22 minutes at maximum speed," the pilot called out. "And how long does the station have?" Jake asked. Lisa checked her datapad. Her face went even paler. 35 minutes, maybe. The Kalthari are hitting them hard. Jake did the math in his head. They would have maybe 13 minutes to get everyone off that station before it was destroyed. 13 minutes to save 147 lives. It would be close. "Very close, sir." "Incoming message from Fleet Command," the communications officer said. "Admiral Cole wants to speak with you." "He sounds very angry." "Tell him I am busy," Jake said. "Tell him I will talk to him after we save those kids." The Defiance flew through space faster than it had ever gone before. The crew pushed the engines beyond safety limits. Everyone on board knew what was at stake. Not just the people on the station. Not just their captain's life. But something bigger. Something about what it meant to be human. Jake stood at his post and watched the stars blur past. Somewhere ahead, kids were crying for help, and he was coming, no matter what it cost. No matter what happened after, he was coming because that was what humans did. They saved the ones who could not save themselves. They protected the innocent, even when it was stupid, even when it was hopeless, even when the whole galaxy said it was the wrong choice. Especially then. The Defiance dropped out of faster-than-light speed above the planet Kepler 442b. What Jake saw made his heart sink. The research station hung in orbit like a broken toy. Parts of it were on fire. Air and debris spilled out from huge holes in its side. 8 Caltharian warships surrounded it like sharks around wounded prey. "My God," Lisa whispered beside him. Jake could see bodies floating in space, people in spacesuits drifting away from the station. They were already dead. He felt sick. They were too late for some, but maybe not too late for everyone. "Battle stations," Jake ordered. His voice was hard now. "Weapons hot. Target those command ships. I want quantum torpedoes ready to fire." "Targeting now," Paul called from the weapons station. His hands moved fast over the controls. "Locked on. Ready to fire." "Fire," Jake said. The Defiance shook as the quantum torpedoes launched. They were beautiful and terrible at the same time. Blue streaks of pure energy that crossed the distance in seconds. When they hit, 2 Caltharian ships exploded. The blasts lit up space like new suns. The other Caltharian ships immediately turned toward the Defiance. They forgot about the dying research station. Now they wanted revenge. Energy beams shot out from their weapons. The Defiance's shields lit up as the beams hit. "Shields holding at 60%, Lisa reported. She gripped her console as the ship rocked from another hit. "But we cannot take much more of this. We are outnumbered." "We do not need to win," Jake said. "We just need to buy time." "Lisa, contact the station. Tell them to get everyone into the escape pods. I want every single person off that station in 5 minutes." Lisa worked fast. "Connecting now." "Station, this is the USS Defiance. We are here to get you out. Launch all escape pods immediately. We will cover you." A woman's voice came through, shaking with fear and hope. "Defiance, this is Dr. Helen Price, station director. We thought everyone had forgotten about us. Thank God you came. We are moving everyone to the pods now." The battle raged around them. The Defiance twisted and turned, dodging enemy fire. Paul kept shooting, taking down another Caltharian ship. But more beams hit their shields. The ship shook harder with each impact. "Shields at 40%, Lisa called out. "We have hull damage on deck 7 and 9. "Fires reported." Jake watched the tactical display. The first escape pods were launching from the research station. Small dots on the screen, each one carrying people to safety. He counted them. 10 pods, 20, 30. Then something strange happened. Paul noticed it first. "Captain, the Kalthari are changing their pattern. They stopped shooting at the station completely. All their weapons are focused on us now." Jake frowned. That did not make sense. The Kalthari never changed tactics in the middle of a fight. Their hive mind made them predictable. They always finished one target before moving to the next. But now they were ignoring the easy targets, the helpless escape pods, and focusing everything on the Defiance. It was almost like they were letting the civilians escape on purpose. "Shields at 25%, Lisa said. Her voice was urgent now. "Captain, we need to pull back. The ship cannot take much more. How many people are still on the station?" Jake demanded. Lisa checked her screen. "We got 42 pods away. That is about 110 people. But there are still 37 people on board. They are in the biodome section. Dr. Price says most of them are children. The adults stayed behind to help them get to the pods. 37 people, most of them kids, still trapped on a dying station while monsters tried to kill them." Jake made his decision in a heartbeat. "Bring us alongside the station," Jake ordered. "Prepare boarding teams. We are going in there and getting them out ourselves." The bridge went silent for a moment. Everyone understood what he was saying. Going into that station while the Kalthari were attacking was suicide. But nobody argued. They just moved. "That is crazy," Paul said. But he was already leaving his station to suit up. "Completely crazy. I am in." "Me too," said Katie Rogers, the pilot. "Someone needs to fly this tub while you heroes go save kids." Jake grabbed his helmet. "Lisa, you have the bridge. Keep those Kalthari busy. Do not let them near the station until we are back." "I will do my best, sir," Lisa said. "Just hurry back. This ship will not last long." Jake and his team rushed to the airlock. They put on their combat suits, grabbed weapons, and prepared to cross into the research station. Behind them, the Defiance shook as more enemy fire slammed into the shields. Before they went through the airlock, Jake heard Admiral Cole's voice over the comm system. The Admiral sounded cold and angry. "Morgan, I hope you know what you have done. Operation Crimson Dawn failed without you. We had to retreat. We lost 17 ships. Over 4,000 soldiers died because you were not there. The fleet is broken. We cannot stop the Kalthari now. When you get back, if you get back, you will face charges for treason. You have doomed us all." The message ended. Jake stood there for a moment, letting the words sink in. 4,000 dead. The operation failed. Humanity was losing the war. All because of his choice. Paul looked at him. "Sir, we can still turn back. We can try to catch up with the fleet. Maybe it is not too late." Jake thought about it for exactly 1 second. Then he shook his head. "There are kids over there who need us right now. Everything else can wait. Move out." They crossed through the damaged airlock into the research station. The station was dying. Alarms screamed. Lights flickered. The air was thin and tasted like smoke. They could hear the structure groaning as it started to break apart. "Biodome is 3 sections forward," Paul said, checking his datapad. "But the direct route is blocked. We need to go around through the maintenance tunnels." "Then that is where we go," Jake said. "Stay close. Watch for structural damage. This whole place could collapse any second." They moved through the dark corridors as fast as they dared. Twice they had to climb over debris. Once they had to seal a door behind them when the section ahead lost all its air. Every second counted. Every second the station got closer to total failure. Finally they reached the biodome. The door was jammed. They had to force it open with their suit's power systems. When it opened, Jake saw them. 37 people huddled in the corner. 17 were children, scared and crying. The adults surrounded them, trying to protect them with their bodies. When they saw Jake and his team, the relief on their faces was overwhelming. Dr. Helen Price stepped forward. She was crying. "Captain Morgan, thank God. We thought we were going to die here." "Not today," Jake said. He knelt beside a little girl who was clutching a stuffed bear. She looked terrified. She could not have been more than 5 years old. "Hey there. What is your name?" "Megan," the girl whispered. Her voice was so quiet he almost could not hear it. "Well, Megan, my name is Jake, and you know what? I'm going to get you and your bear out of here." "That is a promise." "You trust me?" The little girl nodded. She held her bear tighter. Jake stood and addressed his team. "All right, people. We need to move fast. Pair up. Each of you takes care of 2 or 3 civilians. Kids first. Be gentle but be quick. We do not have much time." The rescue team worked efficiently. They had trained for this. Each soldier took responsibility for getting their assigned people back to the Defiance. Jake picked up little Megan, who wrapped her arms around his neck and would not let go. "It is okay," Jake said softly. "I have got you. You are safe now." They started back through the damaged station. It was slower now, carrying people who were exhausted and terrified. The children cried. The adults were silent, but Jake could see the fear in their eyes. Halfway back, part of the ceiling collapsed. Jake threw himself over Megan, shielding her with his armored body. Debris bounced off his back. Pain shot through his shoulder, but he did not let go of the child. "You okay?" he asked Megan when the dust cleared. She nodded against his chest. "You are hurt," she said. "Just a scratch," Jake lied. "Come on, let us get you home." They reached the airlock. One by one, they got everyone across to the Defiance. Jake went last, still carrying Megan. As soon as they were all aboard, Katie pulled the ship away from the dying station. "All personnel accounted for," Paul reported. "Everyone made it." Jake sat down heavily, still holding the little girl. She had fallen asleep against his chest, exhausted. He looked at her peaceful face and felt tears in his eyes. They had done it. Against all odds, they had saved them all, but at what cost? Something very strange was happening aboard the Caltharian flagship. Commander Zrith watched the human captain carry the small offspring through the damaged station. The hive mind buzzed with confusion. This made no sense at all. Zrith was a war-caste commander bred for battle and strategy. 7 feet tall with black armor covering its body, sharp claws, and a mind connected to thousands of other Calthari warriors. The hive mind let them think as one. It made them perfect soldiers. It should have made them unbeatable. But now that perfect mind was struggling to understand what it was seeing. The human warship was critical to their enemy's plans. Calthari intelligence had intercepted the details of Operation Crimson Dawn. They knew the human fleet planned to strike the supply lines. They knew that without the ship called Defiance, the operation would fail. They had calculated a 97% probability that the humans would use their best warship for this critical mission. Yet this human captain had abandoned that mission. For what? For a few dozen non-combatants? For offspring that were not even his own genetic material? Zrith focused its compound eyes on the video feed. The human captain was injured. Debris had hit him when the ceiling collapsed. But he did not drop the small one. Instead, he curved his body around the tiny creature, taking the impacts himself. When the danger passed, he checked on the offspring before attending to his own wounds. Even stranger, the captain sang to the frightened infant. Some primitive human lullaby. The translator could not make sense of the words. But the tone was gentle, soothing. The tiny human stopped crying and clung to the captain. Zrith transmitted a question to the Queen Mind. The central intelligence that guided all Calthari. This behavior is not logical. The human sacrifices strategic victory for offspring that do not carry his genetic code. Our psychological analysis of humans did not predict this pattern. The Queen Mind's response rippled through every Caltharian consciousness. It was unusual for the Queen to be uncertain. But now even she seemed confused. Continue observation. Do not destroy the human vessel yet. We must analyze this behavior. It suggests we have fundamentally misunderstood this species. Zrith ordered the fleet to cease fire on the research station. They focused all weapons on the Defiance instead. The human warship was already badly damaged. It would be easy to destroy, but the Queen wanted them alive. She wanted to understand. So they watched as the human captain led his team back to their ship, carrying the civilians. They watched as he refused to leave anyone behind, even when it put his own life at risk. They watched as he held the sleeping child with such care, as if she was the most precious thing in the universe. On the bridge of the Defiance, Jake did not know he was being studied. He just held little Megan and tried to process what had happened. The war was probably lost now. The Admiral had said so. Operation Crimson Dawn had failed. Thousands were dead, all because Jake could not leave children to die. "I would do it again," he whispered to the sleeping child. Every single time. Lisa approached quietly. She looked worried and confused at the same time. "Captain, something strange is happening. The Calthari fleet is not pursuing us. They are just sitting there. They could destroy us easily right now. Our shields are almost gone, but they are not firing." Jake looked at the tactical display. She was right. 6 Caltharian warships surrounded them. The Defiance was limping, barely able to move. One good hit would finish them. But the enemy ships just watched. "Maybe they are toying with us," Paul suggested. "You know, like a cat with a mouse." "The Calthari do not toy with prey," Lisa said. "They are efficient. They kill and move on. This does not fit any behavior pattern we have seen from them." Then the communication panel lit up. An incoming message. From the Kalthari flagship. That had never happened before. Humans in Kalthari did not talk. They only fought. "They want to speak with you, Captain," the communications officer said. His voice shook. "With you specifically, by name." Jake carefully handed Megan to Dr. Price. The little girl stirred but did not wake up. Jake stood and straightened his uniform. Whatever was about to happen, he would face it standing. "Put them through," Jake said. The main screen flickered. Then Commander Zrith appeared. Jake had seen Kalthari before, but only in combat footage. Seeing one up close was terrifying. The creature was massive, covered in black armor that looked like it grew from its body. Its head was mostly covered in compound eyes that reflected the bridge lights. Mandibles clicked around a mouth full of sharp parts. When it breathed, the sound was like wind through a cave. Several crew members gasped. Paul's hand moved toward his weapon, but Jake held up a hand, stopping him. "Human Captain Morgan," Zrith said. The translator struggled with the words, making them sound mechanical and strange. "We observe your actions. We do not understand. You have the protect future generation instinct. This we comprehend, but you protect offspring not of your genetic line. You sacrifice tactical advantage for those who contribute nothing to your colony's survival. Explain." Jake stared at the alien commander. How could he explain? How could he make a hive mind understand individual choice? How could he describe the human heart to a creature that had never known it? He looked back at Megan, sleeping peacefully now. He thought of Emma, his own daughter back on Earth. He thought of every kid who deserved a chance to grow up safe. "We do not have a hive," Jake said slowly, choosing his words carefully. "We are all individuals. Every human child matters, not because they share my genes, but because they are children. They are innocent. They did not choose this war. They deserve a chance to live, to grow up, to become whoever they are meant to be." Zrith's mandibles clicked rapidly. The sound meant agitation. "This is inefficient. Many must be sacrificed so that more survive. This is survival logic. You had power to strike a decisive blow against us. Instead, you chose weak over strong. Your species should have been conquered long ago." "Maybe," Jake said, "but we are still here. And you know why? Because we do not measure strength by how many enemies we kill. We measure it by how many of our own we refuse to abandon. Every single person in my fleet would die to protect those kids. Not because it is smart strategy. Not because they will grow up to be soldiers, but because it is the right thing to do." There was a long silence. Jake could almost feel the hive mind processing this information, passing it through thousands of connected consciousnesses, trying to make sense of it. Finally, Zrith spoke again. Something had changed in its voice. The mechanical tone was the same, but there was something else now. "Uncertainty? Confusion. We observed you carry smallest offspring through danger. You protected it with your body. You bled for it. You sang to calm its fear. This behavior suggests a concept we do not have." The translator struggles. "The closest word is pack love beyond genetics. We believed only the Queen possessed this, yet you, a warrior leader, demonstrate it for offspring of strangers." Jake thought about how to answer, how to explain something so basic to being human that he had never needed to put it into words before. "Every child is our child," he said simply. "When I look at that little girl, I do not see a stranger's kid. I see someone who needs protection, someone who deserves love and safety. That is what makes us human. We protect the ones who cannot protect themselves. Not because we have to, because we choose to." Zrith's compound eyes seemed to focus more intensely on Jake. "We have conquered 43 species across this galaxy, all measured strength in weapons, in numbers, in territory controlled. None measured strength in refusing to sacrifice the vulnerable for victory. This is new data. The Queen mind requires more time to analyze." The transmission ended suddenly. The screen went dark. Jake stood there, not sure what had just happened. Behind him, the bridge crew was silent. Everyone had heard the conversation, but nobody knew what it meant. "Sir," Lisa said quietly, "long-range sensors are picking up something. The Kaltharian fleet is withdrawing from the Epsilon sector. Not just the ships here. All of them. They are pulling back from human space." "That is impossible," Paul said. "The Kalthari do not retreat ever. It is not in their nature." "The sensors do not lie," Lisa replied. She looked at her screen in disbelief. Across the entire sector, Kaltharian forces are disengaging. They are leaving combat zones. They are just leaving. This has never happened before. Not once in 3 years of war. Jake sat down slowly. His shoulder hurt where the debris had hit him. His whole body ached. But none of that mattered right now. Something impossible had just happened. The war that had killed billions, that had destroyed dozens of worlds, that had seemed endless and unwinnable, was pausing because he had saved some kids. "What do we do now, Captain?" Katie asked from the pilot station. Jake looked at the civilians gathered in the medical bay. Megan was still sleeping, safe in Dr. Price's arms. The other children were being checked by the medical team. They were scared and tired, but they were alive. "Now we take them home," Jake said. "Set course for Earth. Best speed our damaged ship can manage. These people have been through enough. Let us get them back to their families." "Sir, what about the Admiral's charges?" Paul asked. "They will arrest you when we get back. You disobeyed direct orders. People died because of it," Jake nodded. He knew that was coming. He had known it the moment he gave the order to. 3 months passed. The Defiance had been repaired. The civilians had been returned to their families. Little Megan and the other children were safe. But Jake was not safe. He stood in a military courtroom on Earth, facing the most serious charges a soldier could face. Treason, dereliction of duty, crimes against humanity. The courtroom was packed with people. Military officers in their dress uniforms, politicians from the Earth government, news reporters with cameras. Outside the building, crowds of protesters filled the streets. Some demanded Jake be executed for his crimes. Others called him a hero and demanded his freedom. The world was divided. Jake wore his uniform. He had been stripped of his rank, but he still wore the captain's bars. If they were going to punish him, he would face it as what he was. A soldier who made a choice. Admiral Cole testified against him. The old admiral looked tired and angry. His words were cold. Captain Morgan's decision to abandon Operation Crimson Dawn resulted in catastrophic failure. Without the Defiance, our fleet could not execute the planned strike. We were forced to retreat. In the retreat, we lost 17 ships. 4,329 soldiers died. Good men and women who were counting on Captain Morgan to do his duty. Cole paused and looked directly at Jake. He chose to save 147 civilians. The math is simple. 4,000 dead soldiers in exchange for 147 civilians. That is not heroism. That is betrayal. He is guilty. The prosecutor called witness after witness. Officers from the fleet who talked about the failed operation. Families of the dead soldiers who cried as they described their loss. Strategic analysts who explained how Jake's choice had prolonged the war. Jake listened to it all. He did not defend himself. What could he say? Everything they said was true. His choice had cost lives. Good people had died because of him. He accepted that. He would carry that guilt forever. But he also remembered little Megan clinging to him, crying. He remembered the other kids so scared and alone. He remembered promising to keep them safe. And he had kept that promise. The trial went on for days. The prosecutors were building their case carefully. They wanted the maximum punishment. Some were calling for the death penalty. The charge of treason in wartime could mean execution. Then, on the 5th day of the trial, something incredible happened. The judge received an urgent message. She read it and her face went pale. She looked confused and shocked at the same time. After a moment, she stood up. "This court will take a 1-hour recess. Something unprecedented has happened. The Caltharian Queen Mind has requested to address this tribunal. This has never happened before in the history of human Calthari contact. I am told her message is being broadcast on every communication channel. We will reconvene in 1 hour to hear what she has to say." The courtroom exploded with noise. People shouting. Reporters yelling questions. This was impossible. The Calthari Queen Mind never spoke to humans. Never. For 3 years of war, there had been no communication. Just killing. 1 hour later, everyone returned to the courtroom. The judges, the prosecutors, the witnesses all sat in silence. Large screens had been set up to show the broadcast. Outside, the protesters stopped shouting and watched their phones. Across Earth, across every human colony, people stopped what they were doing and watched. The screens lit up. What appeared was beyond human imagination. The Caltharian Queen was massive, a living structure of organic material and technology fused together. She was beautiful in a terrifying way. Lights pulsed through her body. Thousands of tendrils moved constantly. Her eyes, so many eyes, all focused on the camera. When she spoke, her voice was strange. The translator made it sound almost human, but there was something underneath, something vast and alien. This was a mind connected to billions of individuals across dozens of worlds. This was consciousness on a scale humans could barely understand. Humans of Earth, the Queen began. Her words were slow and careful, as if she was learning a new language as she spoke. I am the Queen Mind of the Kalthari. For 247 cycles my people have expanded across this galaxy. We have conquered. We have assimilated. We have grown. This is the way of the hive. The strong survive. The weak are consumed. We believed this was universal law. The courtroom was dead silent. Everyone leaned forward, hanging on every word. 3 cycles ago we encountered your species. We analyzed you. We studied your technology, your tactics, your society. We calculated that you would fall in 3 cycles. Your technology was adequate but not superior. Your numbers were sufficient but not overwhelming. By all our calculations, you should have been defeated. Yet you persisted. You fought with determination we could not explain. We lost more warriors fighting you than we lost conquering the previous 43 species combined. We did not understand why. We believed it was your weapons, your strategies. But we were wrong. The Queen paused. When she spoke again, something had changed in her voice. We did not understand until we observed Captain Jake Morgan. We watched him face an impossible choice. Join a military operation critical to your survival, or rescue civilians who would contribute nothing to the war effort. Logic dictated he choose the operation. Survival instinct dictated he choose the many over the few. Instead, he chose the children. He chose weakness over strength. He sacrificed military advantage for offspring that held no genetic value to him. This violated every principle of hive survival. It should have been his destruction. Jake felt every eye in the courtroom turn to look at him. He sat still, barely breathing, listening to an alien queen describe his choice. We watched him carry the smallest offspring through danger. The Queen continued. We watched him shield the tiny one with his body, taking injury to protect it. We watched him sing to calm its fear. We watched him refuse to abandon a single individual, even when it cost him everything. And then we understood. We had misunderstood the nature of strength. You humans do not fight for territory. You do not fight for resources. You do not fight for genetic dominance. You fight for something we have no word for. Your translator calls it compassion. It is the ability to value life beyond its utility, to protect the weak not despite their weakness but because of it, to measure victory not in conquered worlds but in saved children. Someone in the courtroom started crying. Then others joined. Even some of the prosecutors looked moved. This is why you have not fallen, the Queen said. This is why you cannot be conquered. Because a species that will sacrifice everything for its young, for its weak, for its innocent, is a species that will never surrender. Every battle we win against you makes you stronger, because you do not fight for glory. You fight for love. We Kalthari have conquered 43 species. Some resisted longer than others, but all eventually fell. They fell because they fought for the same reasons we did, for survival, for dominance, for expansion. These are finite motivations. They can be exhausted. They can be broken. But you humans fight for something infinite. You fight to protect those who cannot protect themselves. That motivation cannot be exhausted. It cannot be broken. To defeat you, we would need to kill every human, down to the last infant. And in doing so, we would destroy something precious that the universe needs. The Queen Mind paused. The silence stretched. Then she spoke the words that changed everything. Therefore, we propose a cessation of all hostilities, effective immediately. Kalthari forces will withdraw from human space. We offer not surrender, but recognition. Recognition that you represent something we did not know could exist. A species foolish enough to pick cubs over victory. A species strong enough to make that the right choice. The courtroom erupted. People jumped to their feet. Some were cheering. Some were crying. Outside, the sound of celebration echoed through the streets. The war was over. After 3 years of death and destruction, the war was over. But the Queen was not finished. Captain Jake Morgan is not a criminal. He is not a traitor. He is the purest example of what makes your species dangerous and valuable. He demonstrated the very quality that made us realize we could not defeat you. He chose compassion over victory and in doing so achieved both. You put him on trial for saving children, for refusing to leave the innocent to die. If you execute him for this, you will prove that you do not understand your own strength. You will prove that we were wrong about you. But if you honor him, if you recognize that his choice was not weakness but the highest form of courage, then perhaps there is hope for all species to learn from you." The transmission ended. The screens went dark. The judges sat frozen, not sure what to do. This had never happened before. An alien species ending a war because they learned something about compassion from a human captain. The head judge finally stood. Her voice shook as she spoke. "In light of this new information, and considering the unprecedented nature of these events, this tribunal will adjourn for 24 hours to consider its verdict." Court is dismissed. Jake sat in his chair as people rushed around him. Reporters tried to reach him, but guards held them back. Admiral Cole walked past and their eyes met. The old admiral stopped and looked at Jake for a long moment. Then he did something unexpected. He saluted. "I was wrong about you, Morgan," Cole said quietly. "I thought I understood war. I thought I understood what it—" Captain Jake Morgan stood on the bridge of his warship, the USS Defiance. His eyes were fixed on the screens in front of him. Red dots filled the display. Each dot was an enemy ship. There were too many of them. Way too many. The war had been going badly for humans. The Kalthari had attacked 3 years ago. They were aliens, but not the friendly kind from movies. These aliens were like giant bugs with armor covering their bodies. They had sharp claws and even sharper minds. Worst of all, they shared one big brain. They called it the hive mind. It made them perfect killers. 27 human colonies were gone. Just gone. Billions of people had died. Now the Kalthari surrounded the last big human base in this part of space. Everyone knew this might be the end. Jake rubbed his tired eyes. He had not slept well in weeks. Nobody had. The bridge crew worked quietly around him. They were good people. Brave people. They deserved better than this war. Commander Lisa Hayes walked up to him. Her face was pale. That was never a good sign. Lisa was the toughest person Jake knew. If she looked worried, things were very bad. "Captain, we have a problem," Lisa said quietly. She handed him a data pad. "We picked up a distress call. It is from the research station on Kepler 442b. The Kalthari are attacking it right now. The station will fall in 40 minutes. Maybe less." Jake felt his stomach drop. Kepler 442b was a science station. Just scientists studying alien plants and animals. No weapons. No soldiers. Just people trying to learn about the universe. "How many people are on that station?" Jake asked. His voice was steady, but his hands gripped the data pad tight. 147 people, sir. That includes 32 children. Some of the scientists brought their families there. They thought it was safe, far from the war." Lisa looked down. They were wrong. 32 children. Jake thought of his own daughter back on Earth. Emma was 7 years old. She had brown hair and a big smile. She loved to draw pictures of spaceships. He had not seen her in 8 months. Every day he fought this war, he told himself it was for her, for all the kids like her. Before Jake could say anything, the main screen lit up. Admiral Gregory Cole appeared. He was an old man with gray hair and cold eyes. He had been fighting wars since before Jake was born. "Morgan, I know you got that distress call," Cole said. His voice was hard. "Ignore it. I need the Defiance at the meeting point in 30 minutes. We are starting Operation Crimson Dawn. This is our only chance to win this war. We are going to punch through the enemy lines and hit their supply ships. Without supplies, the Kalthari will have to retreat." Jake knew about Operation Crimson Dawn. It was a desperate plan, a dangerous plan. But it might work. The Defiance was the key. His ship had new weapons, powerful quantum torpedoes that could destroy Kalthari ships in one hit. Without the Defiance, the operation would fail. Without the operation, humanity would lose the war. The bridge went silent. Everyone knew what was happening. Everyone understood the choice. "Admiral, those are civilians," Jake said. "Those are families, children." "I know what they are, Captain," Cole replied. "I also know that if we miss this window, billions more will die. Sometimes we have to make hard choices. Sometimes we have to sacrifice the few to save the many. That station is already lost. Do not throw away our last chance to win this war." "That is an order." The screen went dark. Admiral Cole was done talking. Jake stood there, staring at nothing. The research station was in the opposite direction from the meeting point. He could not do both. He had to choose: save 147 people, including 32 kids, or save billions by helping to win the war. Lieutenant Paul Grant stood at the weapons station. He was young, only 23. Good kid, smart. He looked at Jake, waiting for orders. Everyone was waiting. Jake closed his eyes. He saw Emma's face. He imagined 32 kids just like her, scared, crying, calling for their parents while monsters broke down the walls. He imagined what Emma would think if she knew her daddy left kids to die because it was not strategic, because the math said their lives did not matter enough. He opened his eyes. His decision was made. Set course for Kepler 442b, Jake said. His voice was quiet but firm. Maximum speed. We are getting those people out. Sir, the Admiral's orders, Lisa said. She was not arguing. She just wanted to make sure he understood what he was doing. I heard the Admiral, Jake said. I am choosing to disobey. Those are people. Those are children. We do not abandon them. Not while I am breathing. Now move this ship. The crew jumped into action. The Defiance turned away from the meeting point. The engines roared to life. The ship shot forward, racing toward the research station. Racing toward 32 kids who needed help. Jake knew what this meant. He was disobeying direct orders in wartime. That was treason. He would probably be arrested when he got back. Maybe executed. The operation would fail without him. Good soldiers would die. Maybe humanity would lose the war. But he could live with that. What he could not live with was the sound of children screaming while he flew away to fight a battle. Lisa stood beside him. She put a hand on his shoulder. For what it is worth, sir, I think you are doing the right thing. Tell me that when they put me against the wall, Jake said with a sad smile. Then he looked at the screen showing their course. How long until we reach the station? 22 minutes at maximum speed, the pilot called out. And how long does the station have? Jake asked. Lisa checked her datapad. Her face went even paler. 35 minutes, maybe. The Kalthari are hitting them hard. Jake did the math in his head. They would have maybe 13 minutes to get everyone off that station before it was destroyed. 13 minutes to save 147 lives. It would be close. Very close. Sir, incoming message from Fleet Command, the communications officer said. Admiral Cole wants to speak with you. He sounds very angry. Tell him I am busy, Jake said. Tell him I will talk to him after we save those kids. The Defiance flew through space faster than it had ever gone before. The crew pushed the engines beyond safety limits. Everyone on board knew what was at stake. Not just the people on the station, not just their captain's life, but something bigger, something about what it meant to be human. Jake stood at his post and watched the stars blur past. Somewhere ahead, kids were crying for help, and he was coming, no matter what it cost, no matter what happened after. He was coming, because that was what humans did. They saved the ones who could not save themselves. They protected the innocent, even when it was stupid, even when it was hopeless, even when the whole galaxy said it was the wrong choice, especially then. 25 years after the war ended, the galaxy was a very different place. The Human-Kalthari alliance had grown into something nobody could have predicted. Not just peace between two former enemies, but genuine cooperation, friendship even. The younger generation of both species had grown up together, studied together, worked together. Jake was an old man now. His hair had gone completely gray. His body ached in ways it never had when he was young. He walked with a slight limp from an old injury. But his mind was still sharp and his heart was still strong. He no longer taught at the academy. He had retired from that 5 years ago. Now he spent his days at a small house on the coast of Oregon, watching the ocean and reading books. His daughter Emma visited often with her own children. His grandkids loved to hear stories about the old days, about the war, about the day Grandpa picked children over winning. One morning, Jake woke to find a message waiting. It was from Commander Zrith. The old Kalthari warrior was still alive, though like Jake, it had retired from active service. They had stayed in touch over the years, an unlikely friendship born from mutual respect. Captain Morgan, the message began. Zrith still called him Captain, even though Jake had been promoted to Admiral before he retired. The Queen Mind requests your presence. She is dying. She wishes to speak with you one final time. Please come if you are able. Jake did not hesitate. He packed a small bag and arranged transport to the Kalthari homeworld. The journey took 3 days. Jake spent them thinking about the Queen Mind, about their first meeting, about everything that had changed since then. When he arrived, Zrith was waiting. The old warrior looked different now. Its armor had faded to a lighter gray. It moved more slowly, but its eyes still held that same intelligent gleam. "Captain Morgan," Srith greeted him with what might have been warmth. "Thank you for coming. The Queen does not have much time." They walked together through the organic structures of the Kalthari capital. So much had changed here, too. Where once everything had been uniform and efficient, now there were variations. Individual Kalthari had started decorating their spaces, creating art, expressing themselves in ways the hive mind had never allowed before. "You have changed us fundamentally," Srith said as they walked. "We are still Kalthari. We still share the hive mind. But we are also individuals now. Some of us make choices that benefit only ourselves. Some of us create things that have no practical purpose, just beauty. The Queen worries sometimes that we have lost our efficiency. But I think we have gained something more valuable." "What is that?" Jake asked. "Purpose beyond survival," Srith replied. "We no longer conquer just to conquer. We no longer expand just to expand. We grow because we want to learn. We explore because we are curious. We protect the weak because it is right, not because it serves the hive. You taught us that." They entered the Queen's chamber. Jake had been here before, but it still took his breath away. The Queen mind was massive, beautiful in her alien way. But now Jake could see she was dying. Parts of her vast body had gone dark. Her movements were slower. The lights that had pulsed through her were dimmer. Yet when she spoke, her voice was still strong. "Captain Morgan, you came, I am glad. There are things I must say before I pass." "I am honored to be here," Jake said. "You changed the course of history. You chose peace when you could have chosen continued war. That took incredible courage." "No," the Queen said. "You gave me the courage. You showed me that strength and compassion are not opposites, that protecting the weak is not a tactical error, but the highest form of power. I ordered the deaths of billions before I understood that. I carry that guilt with me to my ending." "I wanted to speak with you about the future," the Queen continued. "A new Queen mind will emerge soon. She will lead the Kalthari for the next cycle. I have prepared her as best I can, teaching her everything I learned from you and your species. But I worry, what if she forgets? What if future generations of Kalthari return to the old ways? The ways of conquest and domination?" Jake thought carefully before answering. "Change is never permanent unless people choose it every day. Humans struggle with this too. We have to constantly remind ourselves of our values, of what matters. The war ended 25 years ago. But already some people forget how terrible it was. They only remember the glory, the victory. They forget the cost. That is why we tell stories. That is why we build monuments. That is why we teach the young. Not so they will remember the war, but so they will remember why peace is worth protecting. The statue you build helps with that. Every Kalthari who sees it remembers that strength comes from protection, not conquest." The Queen seemed to relax slightly. "You speak wisdom. The statue will remain. The stories will be told. And the alliance between our species will serve as a constant reminder. As long as humans and Kalthari work together, neither can forget what we learned from each other." "There is something else I must tell you," the Queen said. "Something the hive mind discovered recently. We analyzed the probabilities of what would have happened if you had made the other choice. If you had abandoned the research station and joined Operation Crimson Dawn." Jake leaned forward. He had wondered about this himself many times over the years. What if he had obeyed orders? What if he had chosen the many over the few? "Operation Crimson Dawn would have succeeded," the Queen said. "Your quantum torpedoes would have destroyed our supply lines. We would have been forced to retreat temporarily, but only temporarily. We would have regrouped, built more ships, returned stronger. The war would have continued for another decade at least. Millions more would have died on both sides. Eventually, we would have adapted to your weapons. We would have found new strategies. The war would have ground on, both sides bleeding, until one side was completely destroyed. Our projections show a 63% probability that humans would have been extinct within 15 years. Jake felt his breath catch. "So if I had made the tactical choice, the smart choice, humanity would have lost?" "Yes," the Queen said. "Because that choice would not have given us pause. It would have been what we expected. Standard military tactics. Sacrifice the few for the many. We would have understood it and continued our conquest. But your choice, your refusal to abandon children even at the cost of everything, that was incomprehensible to us. That made us question everything we believed. That saved both our species. So you see, Captain Morgan, you did not choose cubs over victory. You chose cubs and achieved victory. Not military victory, but something far greater. You achieved mutual understanding. You achieved peace. You achieved a future where both species can thrive. Jake felt tears running down his face. For 25 years, he had carried guilt about the soldiers who died when Operation Crimson Dawn failed. He had wondered if he had made the right choice. Now finally he had his answer. "Thank you," he whispered. "Thank you for telling me." "Thank you for showing us a better way," the Queen replied. "I go now to my ending knowing that my species is on a good path. A path of growth rather than conquest. Of understanding rather than domination. You gave us that gift." The Queen Mind's lights began to fade. Jake stayed with her until the end, along with Zrith and other high-ranking Kalthari. When she finally went dark, when the vast consciousness that had guided billions of individuals finally ceased, Jake felt a profound sense of loss. But he also felt hope. Because the next day, the new Queen Mind emerged. She was young, vibrant, full of energy and curiosity, and the first thing she did was send a message to Jake. "Captain Morgan, I am the new Queen Mind. I have all the memories of my predecessor. I know what you taught us. I promise to honor that teaching. I promise to value every individual life, Kalthari or human or any other species we encounter. I promise to protect the weak and show compassion. This is the new way of the Kalthari, and it will continue as long as I exist." Jake returned to Earth feeling at peace for the first time in decades. He had lived long enough to see the results of his choice. Not just immediate results, but long-term consequences. Peace had held. The alliance had grown stronger. New generations were growing up without the hatred and fear that had defined the war years. One evening, Jake's daughter Emma came to visit with her children. His grandson, also named Jake, was 11 years old now. The boy was fascinated by his grandfather's stories. "Grandpa," young Jake asked, "when you made that choice, when you went to save those people instead of fighting the battle, were you scared?" Old Jake smiled. "Terrified. I was sure I was making a huge mistake. I thought I was dooming humanity, but I was more scared of what I would become if I left those children to die. I was scared that if I could do that once, I could do it again. That I would lose something important inside myself." "My teacher says you are a hero," the boy said. "She says you saved everyone by refusing to play the game the way everyone expected." "I am not a hero," Jake said gently. "I just did what any decent person should do. I saw people who needed help and I helped them. That is not heroic. That is just being human. The real heroes are the people who do that every day without anyone noticing or celebrating them. The teachers who protect their students. The parents who sacrifice for their children. The strangers who help each other in times of need. That is real heroism." Later that night,